Hey, so sorry I haven't been on for a while. It's kind of cold and miserable. So I'm snuggled up inside with Lucy, who is not coming to say hi at the moment. I'll grab her as she comes close. And I thought, I was thinking about something this morning, and I thought I'd tell you the story. Really, what I want to illustrate with this story is that recovery is not usually a motivational problem. I hear it said all the time, oh, he or she just isn't motivated. Or even people say it about themselves. They'll be in a session with me and they'll say, no, I really want to recover. How do I motivate myself to recover? It's not about motivation. If someone's in a session with me, if someone has booked a session with me, then you are motivated to recover. Most of the time we don't have a motivation problem, we have a fear problem. And those are two separate things. You can be very motivated and very fearful. Being motivated to recover does not remove your fear of weight gain and does not remove your fear of doing what you need to do in order to recover. And so I think where people get confused is they think that they lack motivation in the moment to push themselves to do what they know that they need to do in order to recover, when really what it's about is in that moment they're having a massive fear response, and our fear responses can be overwhelming. And one of the key aspect I think to recovery is understanding that recovery is about just that. Recovery is about overriding a fear response. But I think that for a lot of people, when they decide, oh, I want to recover, and then they get confused by the fact that their actions are still acting like a person who doesn't want to recover. They're still restricting, they're still engaging in compulsive movement, all that stuff. Anyway, so here the story goes. I might break this up into a couple of videos because it might take a while. See if I explain it properly. So I can't exactly remember exactly how old I was. I want to say I was probably around 22 or 23. I've probably written it down somewhere. I might have written about this in a book. I don't know, but I don't think I did. Maybe I did. Can't remember. Anyway, I'm telling you about it now. I think I did a podcast about this, but this is YouTube. So I, early 20s, have had an eating disorder for a while. You know, if it was full whack by the time I was 18, starting to develop when I was 17, then by then I'd had an eating disorder for long enough, and I live in this little village in England, and I've lived in this little village all of my life. The only time that I was never not in the village was when I went away to university, and I went to Edinburgh. And when I went to university, that's when the shit hit the fan in terms of my eating disorder really taking off. Because as soon as I was away from my mother, who did her very best with Sunday lunches and all those things to try and make me eat, I was just, as soon as I was left to my own devices, I got run away with. And I was definitely somebody who would be called resistant to recovery. I think a lot of people get called resistant to recovery when they're not actually resistant to recovery. So I've had people that are in a session with me say, oh yeah, I'm told I'm resistant to recovery. I'm like, yeah, but you're sitting here with me. You can't be that resistant. I was resistant to recovery in that you wouldn't get me near a therapist. I wouldn't even go to the GP because I was worried that they'd section me or something and make me go into treatment. Like, I was very resistant to recovery. I wouldn't talk about my eating disorder to anyone. I would not admit that I had an eating disorder to anyone. I was just this, if you want to, like, this ball of resistance. Everything about me said, fuck off, basically. But I grew up in this little village where everybody's so lovely and they just think of you, just think of me as little Tabby. Even when I'm this 18-year-old ball of fuck off, they just think of me as little Tabby, and they're all lovely and had all sort of brought me up. Everybody in the village was an auntie, what can I tell you? And I was at a point where, my mother was a mess. I didn't understand my eating disorder. I didn't understand it at all. I wouldn't admit that I had one. But what I would admit was that I was underweight. I was not in denial about the fact that I was underweight. I didn't like being underweight. I thought that I looked like shit, because I did look like shit.